TTB Music Podcast.
They always say this every year. I should get some jingle bells at this point. Little jingle bell there in the background. That'd be cool. We're on, aren't we?
Yeah, we're on.
Good.
Smoothly into the Ho 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 Christmas edition. Yes, we're back again, and the bad news is that whilst last year we abandoned the Christmas records, this year we decided to bring them back. So we've got 3 Christmas crackers for you. She and Him Christmas Party, Neil and Diamond Acoustic Christmas, and Kacey Musgraves and Very Kacey Christmas.
Oh, mate.
Now, usually when we do this, we do an album at a time, but I feel it would be unfair to do that and prolong the agony.
Should we just lump them all in?
So I think we should just lump them all in and basically, well, for me, say that 2 of them aren't really worth listening to more than once and more than this. But you can start, Pete.
Oh, it's the whole throwaway Christmas album concept which we so successfully threw away last year.
We did.
But we got it out of the loft and dusted it down for another edition in 2016. Right. So, She and Him. Well, no, not for me. No.
It's a bit dull, isn't it?
It's a bit dull. I mean, it really is. Isn't this their 3rd Christmas album?
I'm not sure.
Do they exist just to do Christmas albums?
I don't know. I couldn't remember if we'd done one of their Christmas albums before.
I just we have.
Yeah,
it popped up on that show she's in.
Oh, yeah,
Not So New
thing that you
Girl.
used to watch it.
Yeah, I used to watch it. Yeah. Nah, I stopped watching it.
It's weird because it's one of those kinds of things that doesn't seem to add anything to it and just falls into that kind of meh. Kind of thing, you know. You start off with like, "All I Want for Christmas Is You," and I never thought I'd ever say this, but it's really hard to hear anybody doing this other than Mariah doing the original.
Yep, agree.
And it is, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
The best song Mariah Carey has ever recorded.
It is my guilty Christmas pleasure. That one.
Yeah, it is the best song Mariah has ever written and recorded. In fact, because she co-wrote the song. And similarly, Must Be Santa. Now that Bob Dylan has done the definitive version of that a few years back, again, no point listening to any other version other than Bob's.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's all kind of, I mean, some of the ones that are less well known are probably slightly better. So, Coldest Night of the Year and A Marshmallow World towards the end, particularly. Man with the Bag, maybe as well. But the rest of it's just so.
It's not Christmas Party, is it?
No. It says Christmas Party.
It says Christmas Party on the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that touch of Hawaii going on, which also Kacey Musgraves' album does, which is fine.
Which she does.
But I would say the difference is that the Kacey album has sparkle and this definitely
bit flat.
Doesn't. Right. And then Neil Diamond, again, I was thinking coming into this one, on paper this should work.
And it does. I think it works better than the previous record.
Yeah,
to a point.
To a point. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, stuff like We Three Kings
it's
and
very traditional.
Do You Hear What I Hear?
Yeah.
So it is very traditional. So in that sense, it's quite pleasant, and at least it's kind of very stripped down. And hey, let's just even got Go Tell It to on the Mountain on it, which I quite like. Actually,
I never thought this was a Christmas song before.
Yeah, neither did I. But
it is.
It works. And Oh Holy Night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly fine, but again, there's just, I don't know, there seems to be a bit of oomph missing to want to get you actually off your backside.
Off the couch.
Yeah.
I must confess, first time I listened to this, I fell asleep.
There you go. That's surely just proven my point there and then, really, isn't it? It's just like, you are kind of thinking, it's yes, and it's made me go to sleep.
Exactly.
Whereas, when we get on to Kacey, I know we're fans of Kacey anyway, but it was the 3rd album I listened to of the 3, so it was for me definitely praise be.
Yeah.
It literally was, and I was quite worried about that, what this album was going to sound like. But I think this works really, really well. It feels cosy, it feels fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of both noddingly retro and also very much 2016. And I should expect it's also got humour in it as well. I mean, A Willie Nice Christmas featuring Willie Nelson is just just genius, frankly.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's just absolutely genius.
Yeah.
And funny because you also have the ideal line of "May we all get as higher than the angel on top of the tree."
Yeah.
You know,
it's a classic
compulsory drug reference.
Yes, the Kacey humour.
And this is the out of the three. This is the only one I've put back on again. Actually, I've put back on again a couple of times.
Yeah. Now this is a returner. I can hear myself listening to this every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the redos, if you like, the covers of Even Let It Snow and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, things like that, Feliz Navidad. I Want a Hippopotamus Christmas.
It's perfect for her.
Which you don't hear very often.
No, you don't.
Again, that's another one that's not dragged out very often.
Yeah.
Not works really well. The new songs, like I said, the Willy one, the Ribbons and Bows.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
I even liked her version of What Are You Doing New Year's Eve, which I've always found quite a tedious song.
Yes.
In the past.
I agree.
Good.
This is going to be so easy, isn't it? Yeah, I agree. I agree with Nick.
Yeah. Oh, what are we doing?
That's a real retro joke.
That's a real retro joke. Oh, how is 2010?
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah.
Actually, we were just starting a podcast. I know. We should say we were 7 this year.
We're 7 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know.
One for every listener.
Still going.
So basically, I think what we're saying is, frankly, the Kacey Musgraves one is the only one of these albums that's really worth listening to.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
Perhaps buying for somebody you love.
Yeah. And she's obviously sidestepped the massive, difficult third album.
Indeed, yes. Managed to do a Christmas record.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, now we've got Christmas out the way. Let's start talking Bowie again, because we haven't done that for ages. Yes, I know it's hard to believe, people, but we've decided that come the end of the year, it's time to look back on the year and the passing of Mr. Bowie at the start of the year, and to suggest 2 other albums you might like to listen to this Christmas time from the Bowie back catalogue.
Yeah.
We've picked one each, and I think it's probably fair to say you've picked this slightly easier sound than I have.
Did. Yeah, okay. Well, to be fair, we did the experiment last year with the it's not classic, but it's a game changer record. Do you remember that? Hey, do you remember that? Was a good idea, wasn't it? So we did that last year. I actually picked one outside. And I think I'd have done the same here had circumstances
What, pick one outside again?
Yeah,
that'd have been a bit boring podcast.
Yeah, it would, exactly. So I feel that I've done that. So for me that was the game changer for me with Bowie in the mid '90s when I sort of really woke up to David Bowie. And so I guess the next one on the list for me is Hunky Dory, because once I got past the one outside phase and got my hair cut, and once I got into sort of more retro Bowie, and I saw. I mean, I'm made no bones here. I didn't pick Ziggy for a very obvious reason.
Yeah.
Because that's the one everyone always picks. Number one. Number two, it didn't have the impact that this album did on me. For me, this is the quintessential David Bowie album. It's everything that his career is going to be is in this record.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's the full box set, if you will. You've got hints of what's to come with Ziggy, particularly towards the end. So you get a sense of the band coming together.
Well, no, absolutely. You've got pretty much a song that would have quite happily. I mean, Ain't Queen Bitch would have quite happily sat on Ziggy album. But you have to remember again that you know the Ziggy album was already in the bag when this record came out.
Now, absolutely. So you know what's coming, but also that experimental jazz infused, pop infused, indie infused is all in there. You have 2 of his classic, at least 2 of his classic songs on the first side of the album as well. It's a god awful small affair, and you know it for me. This was everything that Bowie was and remains.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's amazing to think there was. It was released, 45 years ago on a couple of days ago. So 17th of December '71 it came out. So
perfect Christmas record.
Indeed, it is a Christmas record.
It's a Christmas record. Exactly.
Example. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's an interesting record, like I said, because it came out just before Ziggy, and there's only 6 months between them. It was one of these records of Bowie's that initially, whilst critically acclaimed, didn't actually sell that well.
No.
Start off with, and then got kind of subsumed and kind of lost when Ziggy came out. And it was only a couple of years afterwards when it started to reconnect, I suppose, with a wider fan base and start selling more and getting more of your punters interested in it.
Yeah, it did.
But I agree, it is one of those records that it just sounds lovely. It's a very stripped down record, but still, as you say, it contains all the kind of hints of things that you're going to hear. I mean, I've included a quote on our notes here as one of my ping moments. There'll be 2 ping moments in this section. But it's one from Todd Rundgren, who
Really?
admittedly wasn't a kind of huge Bowie fan, but said that the record he most enjoyed by Bowie was Hunky Dory because it exhibited all the pieces that were later used to build those personalities. And he said he didn't really get like David Bowie playing personalities; he preferred him just doing David Bowie. And he said, but it showed you a little bit more of an overview of the ideas that were in his head, all the various influences and things like that. So it's a much more venerable and revelatory album than a lot of the ones when he was playing a character. And I think that does sum up pretty much what you were just saying a minute ago, that it is, you can see all the bits, the pieces that would later be various strands of his career, if you like. As you say, side one of this record, in old money terms, changes, Oh You Pretty Things, 8-line poem, Life on Mars, Kooks. Just brilliant. And Kooks is quite funny because obviously we reviewed the Robbie Williams album on the last podcast, and he has a slightly more sweary version of Ode to Newborn Child than Kooks, but it's in a similar kind of vein of, hey, you've been born, just to warn you, Mum and Dad are a bit kind of out there. You're probably going to get some stick, kind of thing.
It's a lovely song.
It's a lovely song.
Absolutely.
But also this album also includes two songs that have always been favourites of mine. I mean, I love Andy Warhol is a track I really like a lot. Again, great riff. One of the Queen Bitch, just one of the best riffs ever, frankly. And I say it's the kind of thing that became kind of stalwart kind of part of the sound that was Ziggy Stardust, and obviously Mick Ronson and stuff were already in situ on this record. But also there's Quicksand on this record, which is a song that I've always had a lot of time for. It's just a really kind of beautiful, kind of out there, kind of existential epic kind of thing. And there was lines in like knowledge comes with death's release, which I always thought was kind of appropriate kind of a quote for this kind of thing. And it also throws in kind of Garbo and Himmler and Churchill references into the track as well, which is quite weird. But there you go. But yeah, it's a classic record. It genuinely is worthy of the title classic in all possible senses of the word, I think. The other album we're doing, I think it's classic. Still, it has to be said, a lot of the critics haven't really come around to agreeing with me on this one.
Give it time.
And that, of course, is Tin Machine. Tin Machine, the first album from Tin Machine. That's a mere 27 years old.
Gosh.
Or 27 and a half years old, I think. And as I think we touched on when we were doing our Bowie special earlier on in the year, this kind of came out of a period that Bowie was going through when he was just feeling restless and frustrated, and in his own words, kind of in the doldrums. And it was part of that thing of thinking that partly he was becoming greatest hits tour type artist, which amusingly he then did a greatest hits tour in between the first and second Tin Machine albums. And whilst he was playing for lots of big crowds and making lots of money. Clearly, it wasn't really. It didn't seem to be finding it terribly fulfilling. Was tempted to just jack it all in and become a recluse and paint.
Well, which you sort of did.
Yes, just a bit later than
later.
Yeah. And then he kind of basically had a chance meeting and hook up with Reeves Gabriel, doing the music for the avant-garde dance troupe La La Human Steps, and basically Reeves just told him he thought he was being a bit safe and wasn't bored of what he was doing, which I thought was quite brave things to say, but a good thing to say if you've got you're only a fellow musician, I think, probably to say that kind of stuff to you. And from that they just had this idea of forming a band, and not only forming a band but forming a band and it being a band. I mean, again, as Bowie had said, he'd had bands before, but he'd been the leader of the band. He'd never been in a band,
just the band,
and that's kind of what he wanted to do, much to the annoyance of record company EMI, who tried even up to release date to try and get it as David Bowie and Tin Machine and various other things, and so he ended up with forming a band with Reeves Gabriels and the Sales brothers, Hunt and Tony, who had made their name, of course, playing with Iggy, which is where Bowie knew them from. Although, of course, they got their start, second ping of the podcast, playing with Todd Rundgren on Todd's Runt album and the Ballad of Todd Rundgren album.
Yeah.
So way before.
Thanks, Todd.
Indeed. Well, which one's enough now? The album itself. I liked this album immediately when it came out, as I both found at the time, and when it came out, I latched onto it because there was a certain rawness to the album at the time, because it was mostly recorded live, although with some overdubs, and it may be hard to believe for some listeners now, but at the time it did sound quite fresh because of that. And I remember we are at a time here now, still a couple of years away from when Nevermind came out, which I think came out just after the second Tin Machine album, funnily enough. And it also had the element of kind of going back to where Bowie was with Scary Monsters. In a kind of, there was a definite kind of rock, avant-garde rock thing going on. Loud guitar thing with Scary Monsters, Scary Monster track, perfect example of that had kind of dissipated and gone with the three albums that come in between, obviously Let's Dance Tonight and Never Let Me Down. I think even Bowie himself had said at one point that he felt that this was kind of his way of getting back on course, and kind of getting back to what he wanted to do. So the album, so it was just a, hey, let's do an album, everyone's equal, come in, we write the songs, we record the songs, we go out and play the songs, and when we tour, all we're doing is playing Tin Machine songs and covers. We're not playing any back catalogue Bowie stuff. This is just a thing within itself. And I always quite admired that just in and of itself, the fact that he was just going, you know what, fuck it, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And like I said, it's a record that just, despite the fact it's got slated, and it did get slated at the time, even at the time, critically, got quite a mauling, although there were a few positive reviews of it. It wasn't universally hated, but the general feeling was that it was kind of career suicide, and there were lots of people saying, "Oh, David Bowie's made a heavy metal album," stuff like that. And thinking, I can say as someone that was a big heavy metal fan at the time when this album came out, this is not a heavy metal album.
No,
far from it. Far from it. In fact, I would say half this album is a very traditional David Bowie album.
Yeah.
Particularly if you take tracks like "Prisoner of Love," "Amazing," "Baby Can Dance," even "Crack City" in its kind of let's do a rehash of Wild Thing riff. So those are all, for me, if you take those tracks out and just play them to somebody, and they are not aware of where it comes from, I don't think they would guess it's Tin Machine. They would just think, oh, it's probably a David Bowie album I haven't really heard, or it's a greatest hits thing that I haven't heard. This is not to say there isn't some rock on the album. Don't get me wrong. Under the God, I think what else? Bus Stop, Tin Machine, Title Track are all quite hard rocking tracks. But I think the album is a good balance of kind of rock and traditional Bowie. And what gives the album a unique sound is the four people coming together. So you've got Bowie's distinct vocal, you've got Rhys Gaber's very distinctive, flashy guitar style, and a really good solid kind of drum and bass in the old school meaning of the word backing of the Sales Brothers. And it made me laugh the other day when I was listening to which song is it? Under the God, full enough. And again, you've got the line in it: Washington heads in the toilet bowl don't see supremacist hate, opening dicks in their boiler suits, picking out who to annihilate. And you're thinking, not much changed really, has it, David?
Nothing has changed.
And also, just I'll ask about this before I hand over to you, saying, if you can genuinely put this album on, and Heavens in Here starts, and you don't think immediately, what a fucking great track this is, then there's something wrong with you as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Obviously, I agree with everything you just said.
And so ends the podcast.
For me, I mean, again, it must just be the snobbery associated with this album, because you're absolutely right. You know, there is half a David Bowie album in here. Well, there's a whole David Bowie album here, but I know exactly what you mean. You can drop those tracks into any other greatest hits or box set collab, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just Bowie. You know, and that just I think that just still smacks of the snobbery around this album that's just not recognised.
Yeah.
You know, because when you listen to it, if you weren't to know, you're not to know. It does even now sound. Obviously, it's of its time, but yet remarkably fresh, all at once. And again, you've touched on the production around it, and I think it's exactly because of that. And again, we've talked about him jump-starting careers and game-changing, and we did that. Which of course he would do again and again after this album. It's another classic example of where he just fuck it. I just rewrite the rules again, and this is what I am now.
Yeah, it wasn't suicide. It was
no, far from it.
Reviving.
Yeah.
Career revival or self-career revival.
You know, keeping it fresh, recognising that things were going stale, and it comes at the end of a decade which saw him transform from a star to a megastar.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that was, in a way, I think that's kind of the thing, isn't it? He kind of got what he wanted, because obviously he got together with Niles Rodgers on Let's Dance album to kind of achieve what he actually achieved. Yeah. But then, as a result, he then got Tonight album, which always felt a bit cobbled together. Yeah. Which is not to say there aren't good tracks on it. Yep. And similarly, Never Let Me Down, which equally felt cobbled together. Although actually was, if you listen to it now, there's a few tracks on that which are starting to go down the rockier route. So at least on that side of things, you can see that his brain was wanting to kind of go in that direction at least. Yeah. And this seemed to be the natural way of doing it, just to go for it whole hog.
And it's inventive. Again, I mean, I know artists have done this before, Tin Machine, but how many artists these days have sort of gone off and done the side project, or the project within a project?
Yeah.
And again, Bowie did it first.
So there. So there you go. 2 albums for your Christmas stocking. Tin Machine, and David Bowie, Hunky Dory.
Which is a Christmas album.
Yeah, which is a Christmas album.
Which is now a Christmas album.
So there you go. And you heard it here first.
Excellent stuff.
So that's the end.
That's another year wrapped up.
So when we're back in the new year, of course we should say, we'll be back before then with our special end of year best albums in various different categories that we made up on the spot podcast.
Yep. Another one.
Yeah. But proper podcast reviewing new albums and stuff, that'll be in January-ish. Rock on 2017.
Excellent. Merry Christmas.
You've been listening to the CTTV Music Podcast.